Hey everyone, it's Emma here, and I am so excited to share this story with you. You will not believe what happened to me the other day. It was absolutely crazy. I lost my wallet. I know, it sounds pretty mundane, right? But honestly, for those 10 minutes that it was missing, I completely lost it. I was at the grocery store, happily picking out ingredients for dinner, and when I went to pay, poof. Gone. Vanished. My heart started racing, my palms got sweaty, and I felt this wave of panic wash over me. I retraced my steps, frantically searching through my bags, practically tearing them apart. My mind was racing, picturing all the worst-case scenarios. You know, the usual cancelled credit cards, replacing my driver's license, the general hassle of it all. The relief I felt when I finally found it tucked away in the pocket of my jacket. Oh my goodness. It was like the world had suddenly shifted back into focus. Honestly, it felt like magic. So, let's begin our exciting journey of English improvement together with this little story of my 10 minutes of absolute panic. And remember, there are new videos released daily focusing on English speaking and listening skills to help you improve and enjoy your learning journey. So, you want to hear about the time I made a bird feeder? It sounds simple enough, right? Let me tell you, it turned into a whole thing. A saga, really. Grab a cuppa, this might take a while. It all started, I think, with the quiet. You know that kind of quiet that settles in after the kids have gone back to school, the summer's buzz has faded, and the garden starts to, well, not exactly die, but definitely doze off a bit. It was that kind of quiet. And it was getting to me. I'd be sitting on the porch swing, just listening to the rustle of the leaves, the occasional car going by, and that was it. Where were all the chirps and tweets I'd grown accustomed to during the summer months? My heart felt a little empty, I guess. Like the garden had lost its soul. And then, like a bolt of lightning, well, more like a gentle nudge from a well-meaning friend, the idea struck me. A bird feeder. I'd bring the birds back. I'd fill the garden with life again. I imagined a flurry of feathered friends, their happy chirps a constant soundtrack to my day. I could practically taste the homemade lemonade and hear the gentle clinking of ice cubes as I sat and watched them. It was going to be idyllic. Now, I'm not exactly known for my DIY skills. My idea of handy is knowing where the duct tape is. But this bird feeder, I envisioned it being a masterpiece. Not some flimsy plastic thing from the store. Oh no. This was going to be a rustic, charming, handcrafted creation. Pinterest-worthy, even. Okay, maybe I got a little carried away. So, I started gathering supplies. I rummaged through the garage, which, let's be honest, is more of an archaeological dig than a functional storage space. I unearthed some old planks of wood, a rusty hammer, that I'm pretty sure belonged to my grandfather, and a box of mismatched screws. It felt authentic, like I was channeling some inner artisan. The design I had in mind was ambitious, to say the least. I wanted a multi-level feeder, with little perches and a roof to protect the seeds from the rain. You know, 5-star bird accommodations. I sketched it out on the back of an old grocery list, all grand plans and optimistic measurements. Looking back, it resembled something a 5-year-old might draw. Cutting the wood was an experience. Remember that rusty hammer? Yeah, it wasn't exactly cooperative. And the saw? Let's just say my lines were less straight and more abstract expressionism. The wood splintered, I got sawdust in my hair, and at one point, I'm pretty sure I saw a spider crawl out of a knothole. Glamorous, it was not. After what felt like an eternity, I had something resembling planks. Sort of. Then came the assembly. This is where things really started to unravel. Remember those mismatched screws? Turns out, they were mismatched for a reason. Some were too short, some were too long, and some just refused to go in. I hammered, I twisted, I muttered under my breath. Okay, maybe I yelled a little. My carefully crafted, design began to warp and lean precariously. The roof, which was supposed to be a charming peaked affair, looked more like a wilted hat. And the perches? Let's just say they were less inviting, and more death trap. I stepped back to survey my handiwork, covered in sawdust and frustration. It was a disaster. A magnificent, lopsided, splintery disaster. It looked like something a bird would actively avoid. The lemonade and birdsong fantasy evaporated like morning mist. I sank onto the porch steps, feeling defeated. The quiet felt heavier now. Mocking my failed attempt to bring back the birdsong. Maybe I just wasn't cut out for this whole DIY thing. Maybe I should just buy a plastic feeder from the store and call it a day. But then, I heard it, a faint chirp. I looked up, and perched on the very top of my wonky creation, was a tiny little sparrow. It was tilting its head, looking at the feeder with what I swear was curiosity. Then, it hopped down and pecked at one of the stray seeds I'd spilled. My heart did a little flip. It wasn't perfect, not by a long shot. But it worked. This little sparrow, it didn't care that the roof was crooked or that the perches were uneven. It saw a place to rest, a place to find a little bit of food. And you know what? That was enough. Over the next few weeks, more birds came. Blue jays, cardinals, even a couple of robins. They seemed to enjoy the feeder, imperfections and all. The garden slowly came alive again, filled with chirps and tweets and the fluttering of wings. It wasn't the idyllic Pinterest picture I'd imagined, but it was real. It was mine. And it was beautiful. So, yeah, that's the story of how I made a bird feeder. It wasn't easy, it wasn't pretty, but it was worth every splintered finger and mismatched screw. It taught me that sometimes, the most imperfect things can bring the most joy. And that even a clumsy, DIY challenged person like me can create something that makes a small corner of the world a little brighter. You know what I mean? It's the little things, right? The unexpected chirps in the quiet. There, what make it all worthwhile. Now, whose turn is it to refill the teapot? Sighs dramatically, swirling imaginary tea in an imaginary cup. So, banana chips. You wouldn't think they'd be the source of so much drama. But oh, they were. This wasn't just any banana chip making adventure. This was an epic saga, a culinary tragedy, well, you'll see. It all started innocently enough. Picture this. A rainy Tuesday. The kind where the sky is this oppressive gray, and the world feels a little damp. You know those days? The ones where you just want to curl up under a blanket and do absolutely nothing? Well, I should have. But no, I decided it was the perfect day to make banana chips. I'd seen these beautiful, golden, crispy chips on Instagram, and they just looked so inviting. Little did I know. The first hurdle, of course, was the bananas. My local fruit stand, usually a vibrant explosion of color, was looking particularly forlorn in the rain. The bananas, well, they were. Let's just say they were past their prime. Brown spots everywhere, some even bordering on black. But I was determined. I haggled a bit. Because, let's be honest, who pays full price for bruised bananas? And triumphantly marched home with my bounty. Back in my kitchen, the air was thick with the scent of overripe bananas. Not quite the tropical paradise I'd envisioned. I peeled them, the skins coming off in these sad, soggy strips, and started slicing them. Now, I'd imagined perfectly thin, uniform slices, like in the pictures. But my knife skills? Let's just say they're rustic. Some slices were thick, some thin, some oddly shaped, like little banana amoebas. I started to feel a flicker of doubt. Was this really such a good idea? But I pressed on. I'd soaked the slices in lemon juice, as instructed by some random blog, to prevent browning. My kitchen now smelled like a weird mix of overripe bananas and cleaning products. Charming, right? The next step was the drying. Now, I don't own a dehydrator. Who does, honestly? So, the blog suggested the oven. Low and slow, they said. It'll be fine, they said. Well, fine is not exactly the word I'd use. First of all, figuring out the low and slow setting on my ancient oven was a puzzle worthy of Sherlock Holmes. It involved squinting at faded numbers, some experimental knob twiddling, and a fair amount of guesswork. Finally, I thought I had it. I carefully arranged my uneven banana slices on baking sheets lined with parchment paper, another instruction from the blog. I was trying to be a good student, you see. Then came the waiting. Hours and hours of waiting. The rain continued to drum against the windows, the kitchen filled with the faint hum of the oven and the increasingly pungent aroma of, well, I wasn't sure anymore. It wasn't quite burnt, not quite banana-y, just odd. Every half hour or so, I'd peek in, hoping for a glimpse of those golden, crispy chips I'd envisioned. Instead, I was met with pale, slightly shriveled banana slices. After what felt like an eternity, I decided to take matters into my own hands. I turned up the oven just a smidge. Just a tiny bit. What could possibly go wrong? Famous last words, right? I went back to my living room, intending to just relax for a few minutes. But then, that smell hit me. Not the odd, indeterminate smell from before. This was burning. Proper burning. I rushed back into the kitchen, heart pounding. Smoke was billowing from the oven. My beautiful, well, not so beautiful, banana slices were now charred, blackened crisps. The parchment paper was, well, let's just say it wasn't parchment anymore. It was more like ash. I quickly turned off the oven, fanned the smoke detector, which, thankfully, had decided to take a nap, and surveyed the damage. My banana chips. My dreams of crunchy, golden goodness. Gone. Reduced to ashes. Literally. I stood there for a minute, staring at the blackened remains, feeling a wave of, well, honestly? Mostly amusement. It was so ridiculous, so absurd, that I couldn't help but laugh. The whole endeavor had been a disaster from start to finish. The bruised bananas, the uneven slices, the oven saga, the burning, it was all just, so me. You know what I mean? So, I did what any rational person would do in that situation. I ordered takeout. Pizza. lots of pizza. And I vowed to never, ever attempt to make banana chips again. But, leans in conspiratorially, guess what happened next? A few weeks later, I saw another picture of those darn banana chips online. And, well, maybe just one more try? Maybe with a dehydrator this time? Don't judge me. I'm a sucker for a crispy snack. But this time, I'll definitely document the whole process. For science, you know? And maybe for a good laugh. Because let's be honest, sometimes, the best stories are the ones where everything goes gloriously, hilariously wrong. And believe me, this one was a masterpiece of wrongness. Takes a sip of imaginary tea and smiles, a mischievous glint in her eye. So, about that dehydrator, any recommendations? Learning a new language, especially speaking it fluently, can feel like climbing a mountain, right? But when you feel like quitting, remember why you started. Think back to that initial spark, that dream of effortlessly chatting with people from different cultures, of understanding movies without subtitles, or maybe even landing your dream job. Hold on to that feeling, because it's the fuel that will power you through the challenging bits. You've already come so far, and you're absolutely capable of achieving even more. You know what? A fun and easy way to practice speaking is by sharing your childhood memories aloud. Imagine yourself cooking dinner or taking a walk, and just start narrating a funny incident from your childhood. It could be anything. That time you tried to bake a cake and it ended up looking like a volcano, or the day you lost your first tooth. Honestly, it's such a simple exercise, but it helps you get comfortable with forming sentences spontaneously, and it's surprisingly enjoyable. And I totally get it. Getting stuck mid-sentence and freezing is probably one of the most relatable experiences for language learners. It's that moment when your brain knows what it wants to say, but your mouth just refuses to cooperate. It can be frustrating, embarrassing even, but trust me, everyone goes through it. It's just a little bump on the road to fluency. Speaking of practicing, do you prefer practicing speaking alone or with others? I remember once, I was practicing a presentation by myself, and I felt so much more confident afterward. But then, another time, I practiced with a friend, and their feedback was incredibly helpful. It really got me thinking about different approaches. So, what's your preference? Share your thoughts in the comments. I'd love to hear them. So, you want to hear the saga of the homemade ice cream? Oh, honey, it's a story. Buckle up. It all started, I think, with a craving. A deep, summery craving for something sweet and cold and perfect. You know those days, right? When the air is thick and heavy, and all you can think about is escaping into a world of icy deliciousness? Well, that was me. See, I'd always been intimidated by the idea of making ice cream from scratch. It seemed like one of those mystical culinary arts, reserved for people with fancy ice cream makers and an abundance of patience. Me? My kitchen skills were, let's just say, evolving. But that particular summer day, I felt this surge of reckless abandon, this, I can conquer anything, vibe. I decided, then and there, I was making ice cream. My first hurdle? The recipe. I spent, probably a good hour scrolling through Pinterest, seduced by photos of creamy, dreamy concoctions swirling with ribbons of caramel and studded with chunks of chocolate. Each one looked more decadent than the last. I finally settled on a classic vanilla bean. Figured I should master the basics before getting too fancy, right? Famous last words. The recipe itself looked deceptively simple. Cream, milk, sugar, eggs, vanilla bean. Easy peasy, I thought, my confidence soaring. Off I went to the grocery store, feeling like a culinary warrior embarking on a noble quest. I carefully selected the plumpest vanilla bean I could find, its fragrant aroma intoxicating me with promises of sweet success. Back in my kitchen, armed with my ingredients and a newfound sense of purpose, I started the process. The first step was infusing the milk and cream with the vanilla bean. Now, I'd seen chefs on TV effortlessly split the bean lengthwise and scrape out the tiny black seeds with the back of their knife. Mine, however, looked more like a mangled surgical experiment. The bean stubbornly resisted my clumsy attempts, bits of it flying across the counter. Did I mention my cat, Luna, decided this was the perfect moment to rub against my legs, adding a layer of feline-induced chaos to the mix. Eventually, I managed to extract enough vanilla goodness to proceed. The mixture simmered on the stove, filling the kitchen with a warm, sweet scent that felt like a hug. I was feeling pretty good about myself at this point, you know? Like, look at me, domestic goddess in action. This illusion, of course, was shattered moments later. The next step was tempering the eggs. Now, I'd heard horror stories about scrambled eggs in ice cream, so I approached this part with extreme caution. Slowly, ever so slowly, I drizzled the warm cream mixture into the beaten eggs, whisking furiously like a mad scientist. For a moment, everything seemed fine. Then, in a flash, it happened. A clump. A small, but unmistakable, clump of cooked egg. My heart sank. Had I ruined it all? Panic set in. I frantically whisked, hoping to dissolve the offending lump. No luck. It just stubbornly remained there, mocking my culinary aspirations. I considered starting over, but honestly, I was already emotionally invested. Plus, I didn't have another vanilla bean. So, I decided to forge ahead, telling myself, maybe it won't be that noticeable. Oh, the sweet, naive optimism of the inexperienced ice cream maker. After straining the mixture, in the hopes of catching that rogue egg clump, it didn't work. I chilled it for what felt like an eternity. Finally, the moment of truth arrived. I poured the chilled custard into my ice cream maker, a somewhat impulsive purchase made earlier that day, and switched it on. The machine whirred to life, churning and churning, slowly transforming the liquid into a soft, frozen dream. Or so I hoped. I hovered over the machine, watching with bated breath. Minutes ticked by, then turned into what felt like hours. The mixture thickened, but it wasn't quite reaching that perfect, scoopable consistency. Doubt started to creep in. Had I messed up the proportions? Was the vanilla bean not potent enough? Was it the cursed egg clump sabotaging my efforts from beyond the strainer? Just when I was about to give up, declare the whole thing a disaster, and drown my sorrows in a pint of store-bought ice cream, it happened. The mixture suddenly transformed. It thickened, fluffed up, and took on that glorious, velvety texture that I had been dreaming of. A wave of triumph washed over me. I had done it. I had made ice cream. I carefully scooped the soft serve into a container, layered it with some crushed cookies, because why not, and tucked it away in the freezer to harden. The anticipation was almost unbearable. I kept peeking in the freezer every half hour, impatiently waiting for the perfect moment. Finally, after several agonizing hours, it was ready. I scooped a generous portion into a bowl and took my first bite. And, oh, it wasn't perfect. The texture was a bit icy, a testament to my impatient churning. And yes, I did detect a tiny, almost imperceptible, but definitely there, hint of cooked egg. But you know what? It was delicious. It was my ice cream, made with my own 2 hands, and a slightly mangled vanilla bean. And it tasted of victory, of perseverance, and of a summer day filled with sweet, messy, chaotic joy. So, there you have it. The saga of the homemade ice cream. It wasn't perfect, not by a long shot. But it was an adventure. And sometimes, isn't that what matters most? The journey, the mishaps, the lessons learned along the way? Now, tell me, what kitchen adventures have you been on lately? I'm all ears, and maybe we can swap some disaster stories over another cup of tea? You know what I mean? It's always more fun to laugh about these things together, right? Okay, so, you are never going to believe this. I'm still buzzing from it, honestly. It's about, well, a surprise visit. But not just any surprise visit. A surprise visit from Sarah. Remember Sarah? My childhood best friend? We're talking pigtails, scraped knees, sharing secrets and treehouses kind of best friends. Life, you know how it is, kind of, drifted us apart. Different cities, different jobs, different, everything, really. We'd kept in touch sporadically, the odd birthday text, a quick catch-up on social media, but nothing substantial in years. So, when she showed up on my doorstep, well, let me tell you the whole story. It was a Saturday. A gloriously lazy Saturday. The kind where the sun streams in through the window just so, and the dust motes dance in the golden light like tiny ballerinas. You know those days? Perfect for absolutely nothing. I was in my comfiest sweatpants, hair in a messy bun, happily ignoring the looming pile of laundry, completely engrossed in a truly terrible reality TV show. Judge me all you want. It was my guilty pleasure. I had a mug of steaming chamomile tea. Yes, I'm officially that old, and a plate of slightly burnt toast. Because multitasking is clearly not my forte. Life was good. Simple, quiet, good. Then bam. This insistent knocking starts rattling the front door. Not a gentle knock, mind you, but a full-on, I'm here. Let me in, kind of knocking. I grumbled, muttering something about the audacity of people interrupting my trash TV marathon, shuffled to the door, and peered through the peephole. And there she was. Sarah. My jaw literally dropped. I blinked a few times, thinking maybe the chamomile tea had spiked with something hallucinogenic. Nope, still Sarah. Beaming. Sarah. Sarah with a slightly crooked smile and the same mischievous twinkle in her eyes that I remembered from our childhood adventures. I yanked the door open, nearly taking it off its hinges. Sarah? I shrieked, because apparently, I revert to a 12-year-old when excited. Surprise! She yelled, pulling me into a hug that squeezed all the air out of my lungs. It was one of those hugs, you know? The kind that instantly transports you back in time. I could practically smell the bubblegum-flavored lip gloss and feel the scratchy wool of our matching sweaters from our awkward preteen years. After the initial shock and a flurry of excited squeals, mostly from me, admittedly, I finally managed to usher her inside. "What are you doing here?" I asked, still slightly disbelieving. How? When? Why? She laughed, that familiar, infectious laugh that always made me feel warm inside. Well, she began, settling onto my slightly overstuffed couch. Remember how I mentioned I was taking a road trip? I was driving near your town and thought, hey, wouldn't it be amazing to surprise the old goofball? So, here I am. And just like that, the years melted away. We talked for hours, catching up on everything, from career changes and relationship dramas to our shared love of terrible reality TV. Turns out, she's a fan too. We reminisced about our childhood escapades. The time we tried to build a treehouse and ended up falling out of the tree, resulting in matching casts. The disastrous attempt at baking a birthday cake for my mom, which resembled something more like volcanic lava, and the countless hours spent whispering secrets in our makeshift fort under the dining room table. It was as if no time had passed at all. The same easy banter, the shared jokes, the comfortable silence that only comes with true friendship. I learned about her life in the city, the bustling career, the challenges, and the triumphs. She listened patiently as I rambled about my quieter life, the joys and frustrations of working from home, my latest obsession with gardening, which, let me tell you, is not as easy as it looks, and the general chaos of being a slightly dysfunctional adult. We ordered pizza, because what's a reunion without pizza? And we ate it, straight from the box, because, well, who needs plates when you're catching up with your best friend after years? We laughed until our stomachs hurt, cried over old memories, and shared secrets we hadn't spoken aloud in years. Later, as the evening drew to a close and the shadows lengthened across the room, a sense of melancholy settled over us. We knew this precious time was fleeting. Sarah had to leave early the next morning to continue her road trip. I can't believe how quickly the time flew by, I sighed, feeling a pang of sadness in my chest. I know, she said, her voice tinged with regret. But hey, she brightened, this just means we need to make this happen more often. No more years of radio silence, okay? Deal, I said, feeling a surge of warmth spread through me. The next morning, as I waved goodbye to Sarah from my doorstep, watching her car disappear down the street, I felt a mix of emotions. Sadness that she was gone, but also a profound sense of gratitude. Her surprise visit was a beautiful reminder of the importance of connection, the enduring power of friendship, and the magic that can happen when you least expect it. You know, sometimes life throws you these little curveballs, these unexpected moments of pure joy. Sarah's visit was one of those moments. A reminder that the best things in life are often the unplanned, the spontaneous, the things that catch you completely off guard. It made me realize how easy it is to get caught up in the day-to-day grind, to lose touch with the people who matter most. But it also reinforced the fact that true friendships, the ones built on shared history and genuine connection, can withstand the test of time and distance. It's funny, isn't it? How a simple knock on the door can change everything. How a surprise visit from an old friend can fill your heart with so much joy and remind you of what truly matters. I'm so glad she came. It felt like a piece of my heart that had been missing was finally put back in its place. And honestly, I can't wait for the next surprise visit. Though, next time, maybe I'll try not to burn the toast. Just saying. Hey amazing learners. You know, learning a new language is like climbing a mountain. It's a journey, and sometimes we get so focused on the peak that we forget to appreciate the steps we're taking. Don't compare your beginning to someone else's middle. Their journey started earlier, that's all. Your time to shine is coming, and every bit of practice, every word you learn, brings you closer to fluency. Trust me, it's an incredible feeling when you realize how far you've come. You will not believe what I started doing recently, reading news headlines out loud and then just reacting to them. Honestly, it felt like magic. It's so simple, but it makes a world of difference. Imagine you're making breakfast, and you see a headline about a cute puppy being rescued. You can just say, "Oh, that's wonderful," or, "That's so sad. I hope he's okay." It gets you thinking and speaking in English without even realizing you're practicing. You can do this anywhere, while you're walking, waiting for the bus, or even while you're cooking dinner. Wondering if people understand your accent? Oh, I totally get that. We've all been there. It's like you have all these amazing thoughts in your head, but you hesitate because you're worried about how you sound. But you know what? Most people are just happy you're trying. Communication is key, and your effort to connect is what truly matters. Your voice, your accent, it's a part of you, and it's beautiful. And speaking of learning, I had this funny moment the other day where I completely blanked on a simple word. It was so frustrating. It really got me thinking about vocabulary. What's your favorite way to improve English? Vocabulary? I'm always looking for new tips and tricks, so I'd love to hear what works for you. Let's share our ideas in the comments below. So, you want to hear a story about making a cup of tulsi tea? It sounds simple, right? Just boil some water, throw in some leaves. But oh honey, let me tell you, sometimes the simplest things hold the most magic. This particular cup, it wasn't just a drink, it was a whole experience. A mini adventure, if you will. It all started one chilly evening. The kind where the air bites at your cheeks and you just want to curl up under a blanket. Remember those evenings we used to have, back in, well, you know. Anyway, the sun had just dipped below the horizon, painting the sky in these crazy shades of orange and purple, like the tie-dye project gone gloriously right. I was sitting by the window, feeling a bit off, a little restless, a little overwhelmed, a little like I needed a hug from the universe. And then, I saw it. My little tin of tulsi tea, tucked away on the shelf. It wasn't just any tulsi, this was special stuff. Brought back from India by a friend. You remember Sarah? The one with the infectious laugh and the knack for finding the best hidden gems? Anyway, she swore this tulsi was grown in some secret, mystical garden, blessed by monks or something. I'm usually not one for that kind of thing, but even I could feel the good vibes radiating from this tin. So, I thought, why not? A cup of tea couldn't hurt. But I didn't want just any cup. I wanted a ritual, you know? Like a real, honest-to-goodness ceremony of self-care. I decided to go all out. First, the kettle. Not the electric one. Oh no, that wouldn't do. I dug out my old copper kettle, the one my grandmother used to use. It's got this lovely patina, all warm and glowy, with little dents and scratches that tell 1,000 stories. Filling it with fresh, filtered water, I placed it on the stove. The gentle hiss of the gas igniting was already starting to soothe my frayed nerves. While the water heated, I rummaged through my drawers for a special mug. Not just any mug would do for this occasion. It had to be the perfect one. Finally, I found it, a chunky, hand-painted ceramic mug. A gift from... oh, I can't even remember. But it felt right. Warm and comforting in my hands, like a hug. Now, for the star of the show, the tulsi. I opened the tin, and, whoosh. This incredible aroma just exploded into the room. Earthy, minty, a little spicy, a little sweet. It was like inhaling a tiny piece of a faraway garden. I swear, I could almost hear birds chirping and feel the warm sun on my skin. These weren't just dried leaves. These were little packets of pure magic. I carefully scooped a small handful into a tea strainer, the kind shaped like a little ball. It was one of those whimsical purchases, a tiny, silver bird perched on top. Don't judge. We all have our quirks, right? As I held the strainer, the aroma intensified, filling my senses. I closed my eyes for a moment, just breathing it in, letting it wash over me. It felt like coming home. By now, the kettle was singing its merry little tune, the water bubbling away inside. I poured the steaming water over the tulsi, watching the leaves unfurl in the swirling current, releasing their fragrant essence into the clear liquid. The water transformed, shifting from crystal clear to a beautiful, warm golden hue. It was mesmerizing, like watching a tiny, personal sunset in my mug. I let it steep for a few minutes, not too long, not too short, just the right amount of time to extract all the goodness without making it bitter. You know how some teas can get all aggressive if you oversteep them? Tulsi is a bit like that. It needs a gentle touch. Then, the moment of truth. I lifted the little bird-topped strainer, giving it a gentle shake to release any lingering drops, and placed it on a small saucer. The steam rising from the mug carried the intoxicating aroma right to my nose. It was perfect. But wait, there was more. I had this little jar of local honey, the kind that tastes like sunshine and wildflowers. Just a tiny spoonful, swirling it into the golden liquid, watching it dissolve and blend with the earthy tulsi. Perfection. Absolute perfection. Finally, I took my first sip. Oh, my goodness. It was like a warm hug in a mug. The flavor was so complex, so layered, earthy, minty, a hint of sweetness from the honey. It warmed me from the inside out, chasing away the chill and the restlessness I'd been feeling earlier. It was more than just a cup of tea, it was a moment of pure bliss. I sat by the window, cradling the warm mug in my hands, watching the last vestiges of light fade from the sky. The city lights began to twinkle below, like a scattered handful of diamonds. And in that moment, with the warm tea flowing through me, I felt content. Peaceful. Grounded. It was just a cup of tea, yes. But it was also so much more. It was a reminder to slow down, to appreciate the small things, to take care of myself. It was a tiny ritual of self-love, a moment of quiet connection amidst the chaos of everyday life. And sometimes, that's all we really need, isn't it? Just a simple cup of tea, a moment of peace, and the realization that even in the simplest of acts, there can be magic. So, yeah, that's my Tulsi tea story. What do you think? Fancy a cup? Okay. So, you know how sometimes you just have to change things up? Like, your routine gets stale, your jeans feel a little tighter than usual, and you catch yourself staring longingly at pictures of vibrant salads on Instagram? Yeah, that was me a few months ago. Totally in a rut. My go-to meals were, well, let's just say they weren't winning any health awards. Pizza, pasta, repeat. Comfort food, sure, but comfort can get a little, uncomfortable after a while. So, I decided, enough. Time for a culinary adventure. Healthy recipes, I declared to my empty apartment, feeling ridiculously dramatic, but also kind of excited. It was like embarking on a quest. A quest for quinoa and kale and other things I usually avoided like the plague. My first stop, naturally, was the internet. Pinterest, food blogs, even YouTube. They became my new best friends. I fell down a rabbit hole of spiralized zucchini noodles and overnight oats. Chia seeds? Apparently a miracle food. Who knew? I felt like Alice in Wonderland, except instead of falling down a rabbit hole, I was falling into an abyss of, well, healthy food. It was slightly overwhelming, if I'm honest. The first recipe I attempted was, drumroll, a lentil soup. Now, I'd had lentil soup before, at restaurants. Hearty, warming, all that good stuff. How hard could it be? Famous last words, right? The recipe looked simple enough. Chop some vegetables, sauté them, add lentils, water, spices, simmer. Easy peasy. Except, my chopping skills are, shall we say, less than stellar. I ended up with carrots the size of my thumb and onions that looked like they'd been attacked by a rabid badger. And the sautéing? Let's just say my smoke alarm got a workout that day. The kitchen smelled like burnt hope. The resulting soup was, well, edible. It tasted vaguely of lentils and disappointment. But hey, I'd made something. It was a start. The next day, feeling slightly more optimistic, I decided to tackle a salad. Not just any salad, mind you. A superfood salad. With kale. And pomegranate seeds. And this weird, crumbly cheese that smelled vaguely of feet. It was supposed to be good for me, okay? The dressing involved whisking together olive oil, lemon juice, and Dijon mustard. Whisking, apparently, is also a skill I lacked. The oil and lemon juice refused to emulsify. They just kind of sat there, staring at me accusingly. The salad itself? It tasted healthy. Too healthy. Like I was eating a bowl of grass clippings. I choked it down, feeling virtuous but also slightly nauseous. I won't lie. The first week was rough. There were burnt vegetables, exploding smoothies, don't ask, and a general feeling of culinary inadequacy. I started to question my life choices. Was healthy eating really worth all this effort? Maybe pizza wasn't so bad after all. But then, something shifted. Slowly, almost imperceptibly, I started to get the hang of it. My chopping skills improved, marginally. I learned the secret to perfectly fluffy quinoa, rinse it. Who knew? I even discovered that kale, when massaged with olive oil and lemon juice, could actually be enjoyable. One evening, I stumbled upon a recipe for roasted sweet potatoes with chickpeas and tahini dressing. It sounded intriguing. I followed the instructions carefully, measuring everything precisely, chopping the sweet potatoes into neat little cubes. As the sweet potatoes roasted in the oven, the apartment filled with a warm, earthy aroma. The tahini dressing, surprisingly, came together beautifully. And the final dish? It was a revelation. The sweet potatoes were caramelized and crispy, the chickpeas were perfectly roasted, and the tahini dressing added a creamy, nutty flavor that was just chef's kiss. I sat at my kitchen table, savoring every bite. It wasn't just healthy, it was delicious. And I had made it. Me, the girl who almost set off the fire alarm making lentil soup. From that moment on, something changed. I started to experiment more, to try new flavors and textures. I discovered the joy of spiralizing vegetables. It's strangely therapeutic. I learned how to make my own granola, so much better than store-bought. I even started to enjoy grocery shopping, wandering through the produce aisle, marveling at the vibrant colors and exotic shapes. My kitchen, once a scene of culinary disasters, became my playground. I wasn't just following recipes anymore, I was creating. I was playing with flavors, experimenting with spices, and discovering new combinations that surprised and delighted me. Of course, there were still occasional mishaps. A batch of muffins that resembled hockey pucks. A smoothie that tasted suspiciously like grass clippings, again. But even the failures became learning experiences. They taught me resilience, patience, and the importance of not taking myself too seriously. And you know what? The best part wasn't even the weight loss, although that was a nice bonus. It was the feeling of accomplishment, of having conquered something that had once seemed so daunting. It was the realization that healthy eating didn't have to be a chore, a punishment, a bowl of sad, wilted lettuce. It could be an adventure, a celebration of flavor, a journey of self-discovery. So, yeah, that's my story. The story of how I stumbled, bumbled, and eventually triumphed in the world of healthy recipes. It wasn't always pretty, but it was definitely an experience. And you know what I learned? Anyone can do it, even a kitchen klutz like me. It just takes a little patience, a little persistence, and a willingness to embrace the occasional burnt vegetable. Because sometimes, the greatest discoveries are found in the most unexpected places. Even in a pot of slightly burnt lentil soup. So, next time you're feeling stuck in a rut, I encourage you to give it a try. You might just surprise yourself. Who knows? You might even discover your own inner chef. And maybe, just maybe, you'll find that healthy eating can be fun. Imagine that. Hey everyone, thank you so much for hanging out with me throughout this video. It really means a lot to me that you're here, learning and growing together. If you'd like to keep up with our daily English speaking and listening practice, I'd love it if you would follow, like, subscribe, and share this video with anyone else who might find it helpful. You know, before we go, it made me wonder, what are your plans for your next day off? It's always so lovely to hear what everyone is thinking about, and sharing your plans in the comments is a fantastic way to practice expressing yourself in English and connect with others. It'll be fun to see what adventures you all have in store. See you tomorrow, and remember to take good care of yourselves and keep up the amazing work.